I am Stacey Ennis, and I'm talking with Tim Vandehey today about an upcoming workshop that is happening in Boise on October 28th. So hi, Tim.
Hi, how are you?
Doing great. I'm so excited for you to come to Boise. Why don't you tell people who are watching a little bit about your background and what your workshop's going to be about?
Okay. Hi. I have been working as a ghostwriter. I'm a ghostwriter mostly by profession. I do other things as well, but I've been ghosting full time. I finally figured it out yesterday. I finally looked up all the clues in old emails and figured it's been since 2006 that I started ghostwriting books full time.
Wow.
And I've written about 50, and 6 of those have come out this year with publishers, which has been really fun. I had a book come out 2 days ago with HarperCollins, which was really cool.
Congrats. That's
Thank
great.
you. It's actually in 140 on Amazon right now, which is awesome. It's
Wow.
like I just,
And like the real 140, right?
after a book comes out, I sort of obsessively check Amazon as my authors do marketing, going, where is it? Where is it? Is it going up or down? Every time it goes up, you're cheering, and every time it goes down, you're going, no! Slow motion to try to keep it from going down. But anyway, so that's primarily what I do, and I also run an author marketing company called Beast Sellers, which I just started this year with a partner out in DC. So as if I didn't have enough on my plate already.
Yeah, and I love the concept behind Beast Sellers. So maybe you could tell people a little bit about that.
You want to do that now? Sure.
Yeah.
Well, I got the idea because I've written a lot of manuscripts and a lot of book proposals for people, and I've had a fair number of authors come back to me after I finish their work and they go out into the world and release their work into the wild, and then try to find publicists or people like that to do their marketing, and they'll call me and say, Tim, these people are thieves. I can't get any decent service, and they all want $15,000 before they'll even talk to me. Mm. And after a while, I finally started saying, well, okay, there's a need there, obviously. And what the key for me was finding a partner who had the business. I'm not a business guy. I'm not a bookkeeper and all that stuff. And so I found a friend of mine who also runs a small publishing company out in DC called Mascot Books. He's a lawyer, recovering lawyer, runs a publisher. He's got the business infrastructure. So we worked together to start this agency. Started this year, got our first 8 clients so far. We got a book coming out October 3rd that is really excited about because the author is going to get a lot of media exposure and so on, and book signings and things like that. So that's going to be fun. So that's the other venture, because that's something that's really lacking. Mm-hmm. Is marketing services that they can afford from people who understand the book business. There are a lot of publicists out there who don't understand books and publishing. So.
Yes, and I feel like we could go down a whole different conversation about that because it's
really?
Such an important topic.
Good.
So the reason I wanted you to tell a little bit about that before you introduce the workshop is because I feel like you have such a robust background that's really different than a lot of ghostwriters out there. So tell me a little bit about the workshop that you're doing.
Well, the workshop is going to be focused on the business and the career side and the business of being a professional writer. Because I run into a lot of people who are accomplished writers. They're good writers. They don't need help with the writing at all. What they really need help with is the business side, which is building their brand, learning how to navigate, especially if they're in the book world, which most people want to publish a book of some kind, whether they're publishing their own work or ghosting. Understanding how publishing works, understanding all the different ways in which you can publish, understanding the marketing side, understanding client management and how to have a life when you are working, because that's one of the coolest things. I mean, it's one of the best things about being a freelancer.
Absolutely.
Right? If you manage your time, if you don't manage your time, it'll eat you alive. If you do, when you have kids like I do, so you have to really know how to unplug and when to stop answering text messages and when to say, oh, I didn't hear your call. My phone must not be working right. You have to know how to manage that and manage your clients and things like that, and how to ask for money. One of the biggest things I'm dealing with that with a client right now is getting paid. And so all of those things I try to put into a presentation, and also the business of ghostwriting, because that's something I've tried to evangelize about for a long time, is how great a career that is.
Absolutely.
And you've gotten into it yourself, so Mm-hmm. It's an awesome way to be a professional writer. It really is. And a lot of people don't do it, I think, because they really want to have their name on the byline, which I get. Not everybody can do it, and not everybody should do it. It's a very journalistic profession. So if you don't have a journalistic bent to your mind and your work, probably not going to want to be a ghostwriter. But man, if you can manage it, it is such a good way to work as a writer. So I'm going to talk about all that stuff and try to cover it all in, what do we have, 2 hours, 3 hours?
Yeah, I think technically it's 3.5 hours. So, which gives us a nice break so we can kind of stretch and then come back refreshed for the second part. Yeah. So one thing I'm really excited about is just having you here, because you and I met maybe 5 or 6 years ago, I think, working on the Sam's Club magazine together. And since then, sorry, what's that?
Did we know each other before that?
Yes, that's true. We met each other at you presented at a conference at the Idaho Book Extravaganza. That's right.
That's right.
And so that was kind of the first time we met, and then we reconnected at the magazine when you were executive editor at Healthy Living Made Simple, and then I eventually took over when you left. And what's neat for me is that you are the person I always write when I don't know what to do. You've become a business mentor to me. And so I'm just really excited that you're coming here to share with my community of people.
Makes me happy.
Yeah, so it'll be really neat. So what do you think are the main things that people will take away from this workshop? What can they expect to get out of it?
That I like to talk. That'll definitely take away. I hope they'll take away, if they take away anything, I hope it'll be, number one, that you have to go into this, you have to treat this like a business in terms of being assertive and aggressive and making your own opportunities. So when I talk about writers being entrepreneurial, that's what I talk about. That's what I mean when I say that. Because I've made my own opportunities by going out and being aggressive ever since I started, because I started as a copywriter. I had an ad agency job till the end of 1994, and I got sick of the deadlines and sick of working for somebody else, and went off freelance and lived in a beach house with my best friend and wrote ad copy. It was pretty cool. Mm-hmm. But the reason I did that was because I wanted to have control over my own opportunities, my own income, and my time, and so on. And so, they have to be entrepreneurial. You have to go out and make stuff happen. Don't just sit around waiting for it to happen, whether that's books or articles, or you're a copywriter, or you're a technical writer, or a poet, or write novels or nonfiction or whatever. The second thing I think is that even if you don't want to ghostwrite books, ghostwriting of some kind is a really, really good way to supplement your income, even if it's not your primary work like it is for me. Because of the internet, just like for actors, there's more work than ever for actors because of the internet, right? Because mm-hmm. of Netflix and Hulu, Amazon, and YouTube, and so on. There's also more work for writers because of online magazines, LinkedIn and things like that, blogs, ghost blogging, ghost writing for people who publish on an electronic format is a huge industry now, and so that you don't have to be ghostwriting books for New York publishers to supplement your income as a ghostwriter. And probably, if I was going to think of a third takeaway, it would probably be.
Would be what?
Charge more.
Charge more.
Raise your fees. I was just reading something like that from. Are you familiar with Freelancers Union? Mm-hmm. Yeah, I'm on their email list, and they just sent something about that. About basically stop being afraid to raise your fees. And I tell writers that all the time because I look at some. Now I know some who are overcharging. Just a couple that I ran into recently was overcharging hugely. But most writers undercharge for their work. If you're in the book world, that's different. If you're writing novels or poetry or fiction or short stories, then that's not the same thing. You're not charging. You're just looking to get paid by anybody.
Right.
But copywriting or anything else or ghostwriting. Charge more. Well, there's a lot more to it than that, but I think those will be three pretty consistent takeaways.
Absolutely, I couldn't agree more. And one other thing that I think you're going to touch on is your brand as a writer.
Right.
And so I'm really excited about that piece too, because I think it's, there's so many other things that people have to worry about, and that they're kind of inundated with all the things that you have to do to build a successful business. But that's kind of at the core of everything. And I think it often is kind of an afterthought. So I'm looking forward to that part too.
Yeah, it really is. And I always say that really comes down to your online presence.
Yeah.
It comes down to your website and your social channels, because that's you got to think about it. The first thing, what's the first thing somebody's going to do when they hear about Stacey Ennis, ghostwriter, is look at your website and your Twitter feed, your Facebook page, etc., and they're going to draw conclusions about you based just on those things, without ever talking to you. Whether that's fair or unfair, that's reality.
Right.
And so, what do those properties say to someone who comes into contact with them? Are they polished and professional and cool and look great and make you look like a real pro, or are they sort of not so hot and they make you look like an amateur who's just playing around? So
yeah,
that's what I mean. But there's more to it than that. But that's kind of the essentials.
Yeah, absolutely. So I feel like this workshop will be beneficial not just for freelance writers, but also freelance editors or anybody that kind of works in a service-based freelancing capacity. So I've encouraged a lot of people who are maybe not doing as much writing, but are also they're really more editors to come to this too, because I feel like all of the advice fits.
Yeah, it does. I mean, and I love editors because they're a good writer, a writer's best friend. So
yeah, absolutely.
I think when you and I met, you were primarily an editor. I know you still are, but you were primarily doing editing. So
yeah.
But yeah, I think this, the same basic rules apply to everybody. Brand yourself, manage learn how to manage your clients and manage your time. Ask for more when you think you're worth it. Be entrepreneurial and create your own opportunities. Those pieces of advice, those apply to any sort of work. The main thing is that writers, people in the editorial world, writers, editors, they don't think of themselves as business people. Just like a lot of times artists don't. I know a number of artists and musicians who don't think of themselves as businesses, and they should.
Right.
Because if they did, they would conduct things in a different way. They'd be more aggressive. I know writers who don't get contracts. Who do work with that. I'm like, what? Are you out of your mind? And you're surprised when you get taken advantage of? That's basic stuff.
Yeah.
That applies to anybody, writer, editor, proofreader, designer, anybody, any creative profession. A lot of times people in those worlds don't think of themselves as little one-person businesses. And in the case of things like contracts and websites and stuff, they should.
Absolutely. Yeah. So I'm excited to see what else you're going to share in the workshop. Anybody in the Boise area who works with words at any capacity should come. Tell me a little bit about the publishing crawl afterward.
Okay. Well, that's basically just to drink and talk about books.
Yeah.
Which are two things that I enjoy doing a lot. So they do the pub crawl, right? As you go from pub to pub, and as you drink more, you slowly go from walking to hunching to crawling to probably being face down somewhere. So I came up with the idea as part of Beast Sellers, where we were going to do that if we got to the point of doing road shows and things. But typical startup, we have this many ideas and this much time and this much money. So that's something that's going to come down the line. But I thought of bringing it to the Boise event, because the idea is just go to 2 or 3 bars, pick some cool places with some room to sit, and preferably places that are reasonably quiet. Conversation is the most interesting thing in the world, and talk about publishing and books. So publishing crawl. So yeah, the idea is to go get done with the formal workshop, round up whoever wants to go, hit 2 or 3 good bars, grab some beers, wine, whatever, and have a little Q&A skull session, whatever you want to call it, about the world of books and agents and publishers and book proposals, and how crazy it all is, and speculate what kind of advance Donald Trump would get if he ever wrote another book. But yeah, so this should be fun. That's going to be just probably lots of just question and answer, I would guess. Hopefully some good beer.
Yeah, it'll be great, and it was kind of our way of trying to get the publishing side from you too, which we're going to be talking about, of course, throughout pieces of the workshop. But
so not everybody's interested in book stuff. So I am. That's my world. But yeah, but that's kind of one place where we get. Oops, sorry, I thought I turned off my phone. But that
Just some sound effects, right?
it's so busy, and everybody wants me all the time. So.
So if you're in the Boise area and you work with words, please join us. I'll be sure to link to the workshop description in the text with this video. But be sure to check out also the Writers Guild, Idaho Writers Guild, and the Idaho Editors Association. Both organizations are co-presenting this event. Tim, we're so excited to have you in Boise, and I'll see you on October 28th.
Can't wait. Absolutely. Look forward to it.
Me too. Talk to you soon.
Thanks, Dave.